Hello, kind people. This is Dmitry, and I would like to record a video about this puzzle that you see on the screen. It is from the current February issue of the Magpie magazine, and I'm recording this on the 13th of February, so I will not be able to release this video until at least for another couple of weeks. And there are several reasons why I want to talk about this particular puzzle. The main one is that this puzzle is by Serpent, and Serpent is the pseudonym of Jason Crampton, who is the current editor of the Times crosswords, and as such, this is his new role, and when he became the editor of the Times crossword, he stepped down from the editorial team of the Magpie, and my understanding is that he probably will have less time for actually setting the thematic cryptics. And this is a little bit of a pity. I mean, I'm very happy for Jason and I'm very happy for the Times, but I do hope that we will see more of those, and I want just to, showcase how wonderful Serpent puzzles are. And when I think about Serpent as a setter, so what are the characteristic features of Serpent's puzzles? For me, they are very often, more often than not, grounded in some very interesting historical fact that quite often is of the type that when you learn about it, you think this is something that I should have known, but for some reason I don't. And so this already makes them interesting. But also the clues themselves are very beautiful, in the sense that Serpent never compromises on the surface reading of the clues. Jason wants them to be smooth, and so they're very fluent as English sentences. And also, I believe that he restricts himself to try not to use some more obscure words from the dusty corners of Chambers' dictionary. So when he uses some software to help him set the grid, he restricts his vocabulary to a subset of which is typically much smaller than what other solvers are using, what other setters are using, and this makes his puzzles, or the clues at least in the puzzles, somewhat accessible. And I believe it is something that setters should should not try to artificially overcomplicate clues. So I think it's definitely a plus. But I think maybe there is some irony here in that when people vote at the end of the year for things like Puzzle of the Year, I believe it's the absurdly difficult puzzles that get most of the votes, typically, partially because just people remember this lengthy struggles, and I don't think that Serpent's puzzles are of this type, typically. But this doesn't take anything away from them. They are wonderful. And of course, the other thing about them is that the sort of thematic resolution of the end game is very beautiful and always very thematical. There are reasons for there is a reason for every little thing in the puzzle. So let's talk about this one. It's called Double Up, and let's read the preamble and then we'll dive into the details. So clues are presented in the normal order. The grid has 180 degrees symmetry. One thematic entry whose position must be deduced is unclued. So what this means is that if you, so if you look at the clue list, it's not even split into across or downs, but this normal order means that if there were bars, oops, sorry, that is, we'll get to that later, but if, let's have a look at the more traditional grid for this puzzle. So you can see, like, this is 1 across, and this is 2 down, 3 down, 4 down, 5 across, and 5 down, and so on. So you list first all those acrosses, 1, 5, and so on, and then you list all those downs, and this is how they would numbered. So this is exactly the same ordering that we're guessing here, only the bars and the numbers are hidden from us. So what that means is, if you have an across list, so if you have an entry, say it's split like this, so that means that there is also a bar there, because it has to be symmetric. And so there is a 6, the entry of length 6 here, and the entry of length 6 there. And this one is the very first across entry, and this one is the very last across entry. So similarly, if, say, there are no more bars here in row 1, then, you know, this will become a length 7 entry, which is the second one in the across list. And this will become a length 7 entry, which is, you know, the penultimate one on the across list. And so the list of the acrosses, if you look at the grid lengths, the lengths of the grid entries there, they would exhibit symmetry. So it starts with 7, 6, 7, and if you look at, you know, where this pattern repeats, so it ends here. So this 7, 6, 7 is the other side, and this symmetry continues here. So 5, 4, 4, 5, 4, 4, and so on. So we can also, like, immediately sort of split it in half here. It's not the case for the down entries, because obviously if you think about how the numbers are assigned to them, you see that they don't have this symmetry. And so let's get back to the preamble. The initially filled grid contains several blank cells and an equal number of cells containing 2 letters. To complete the puzzle, solvers must extend the thematic figure in such a way that every cell in the final grid contains a single letter. So it's not clear yet what's going on, and that's fairly typical for these thematics. So bars must be entered, but numbers are not required. We will see why bars need to be entered, but I'm always, like, very scared when they ask me to do that, because it's very easy to forget them, to miss one. So let me show you some of the clues to just show how you can start there. So let's look at the very first one, 1 across. So which, you know, turns out to be 1 across. It's not necessarily 1 across, could be maybe 2, but it is here. So juvenile article inspired by popular paper. The answer is infant. So here popular is in. So this is a definition. Article is an, and it's inspired by popular and a paper, FT being Financial Times, one of those papers for which Jason did compile before becoming the editor for the Times. I don't know whether these roles are compatible. Probably not. So one thing you immediately see here is that the grid entry length is 7, but infant is 6 letters, and so there is a blank cell here. And you could kind of make an educated guess about where that would be by observing that the grid has dimensions 12 by 13, so there are 12 rows but 13 columns. So probably there is some reason for why, say, this is not a square, and indeed there is. And it has to do with the central column. And so the correct placing of this entry is like this, leaving this central column cell blank, but the bar goes here and then the other one goes there. So maybe let's have a look at another clue where the opposite happens, so where there is a crowded cell. Let's have a look at this one. Commercial targets confused math judge briefly. So commercial targets is the definition here, and the answer is ad masses. So those are the, I guess, people targeted by commercials. And the wordplay works like this. So confused mad gives you an anagram of mad, so the first 3 letters, And then to judge is to assess, and you take it briefly, so without the last letter, and so you get add masses. And here add masses is 8 letters, and you have space for 6. So eventually you figure out, after some battling with the grid, that it goes here. So the bar goes there, and it becomes this entry, and so on. There are maybe, let's have a look at just a couple of more clues to appreciate, how elegant Serpent's clues are. So let's have a look at this endlet. Space hosting final of competition. So for those who don't know, endlet clues are the ones where the whole clue could be read as both a definition and a wordplay. So space hosting final of competition could be an arena. And then if you reread it cryptically, a space could be area, and it is hosting the final letter of the word competition, and that gives you an arena. And so this is a very natural surface and a very elegant clue. Here is another beautiful surface. Head witness lacks intelligence. And here we need to split it here. So head becomes the definition, and we need to take witness as a word witness, not even a synonym, and we need to get rid of intelligence, that is wit, and we end up with ness, and ness is a head in a geological sense, like a mass of land extending into the sea. So yeah, that's another beautiful clue, and I think, and as you can see, they're not obscure words there, right? Or maybe ad masses is a little bit obscure, but there's nothing obscure in the wordplay. It's very, very straightforward and fairly elegant. And I must say this is not easy when you're doing this thematic cryptics, because the grids are typically very constrained. So having an additional constraint of a small vocabulary makes it much harder. So once you do all that, you arrive at the final grid, which looks like this. Oops, sorry, I kind of spoiled it. No, sorry. The final grid pre-endgame looks like this. And apologies for that. So as you can see, 5 cells are blank, 5 cells have double letters, and if you read these double-lettered cells, you get Adam Rayner. And so then either you know this, or you Google this, and then you find out that Adam Rayner is the only person in documented history who was both a dwarf and a giant, as in he was the first, diagnosed with dwarfism, and they believe failed his army medical as a result of that, and this was around First World War. And then, so he was extremely short up until the age of 20, and then probably as a result of a tumor in his head, he had a growth spurt after the age of 20, and he ended up being 2 meters and 34 centimeters. This is the only case known. And so the end game obviously requires you to extend the thematic figure in such a way that every cell contains a single letter. So from a very short representation of Adam Rayner, we get to a very tall one. And then you realize, realize this, I raised the bar here, why Serpent wants us to keep the bars in the grid, because by doing so, and this is obviously the mark of a good puzzle, a good quality puzzle, all those words that were short, they being extended with these letters at the top 5 cells in the central row, they stay real words. So infant becomes infanta, reading with 1D becomes reading with 2D, both are words. Read becomes raid, some becomes some, the place we all know from World War Legato becomes legator, add masses, and at the bottom half of the grid, the longer words become shorter, but they keep they're still real words. So add masses become amasses, clamps becomes clips. So what was the marai? I can't even remember what that was, but that's a word. Becomes main, which is definitely a word. Remained becomes remedied, which is like one of those spellings of it's sort of a verb originating from remedy. And irradiate becomes radiate. So once again, a real word. I think this is a very beautiful puzzle, and I hope that, you know, among all the chores of editing the Times crossword, Jason will have some time for compiling little gems like this. So thank you for watching, and I hope I will have time to, you know, record something similar soon enough. There was an absolutely brilliant puzzle in the January edition of the Magpie by Twin, so I might do a video on that one. And yeah, we'll see what the year brings. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.